Fantasy Football Hub are currently offering any FPL TV viewer a huge 50% pre-season discount on their annual packages. By becoming a member, you'll gain access to one of the biggest FPL communities, with extensive Opta stats, player comparisons, fixture tickers, planning spreadsheets, community WhatsApp groups, and even team reveals every game week from some of the world's best FPL managers. To get signed up and receive a 50% discount this pre-season, then simply click the link in the description box below. Hey guys, and welcome back to FPL TV. In my previous video, I spoke about some 4 million budget-enabling defenders that could potentially be starters in FPL and therefore become the cheapest starting defenders in the game. There is a chance, however, that you're not interested in cheap defenders in FPL this season. Perhaps you want to go big at the back and therefore need to find dirt cheap budget enablers in other positions instead. So, continuing on from that video, today I'm going to move into midfield and attack, and look to identify some of the 4.5 million midfielders and forwards available that could potentially get minutes from Game Week 1. As mentioned in the last video though, I'm not suggesting any of these players are guaranteed starters. They're merely options who I believe are worth putting on your watch list and have the best chance of getting some minutes. It's also worth noting that some of these suggestions, just like the last video, will need a transfer to go through first, before making them viable options. So let's get stuck into it. The first 4.5 million option, and perhaps the one with the highest probability of starting, is Nottingham Forest's Jack Colback. The experienced midfielder was ever present in the Forest side last year, making 41 appearances, including all 3 of their playoff fixtures, which of course they went on to win and earn promotion. Clearly an important player. Although predominantly a midfield player, there were some suspicions that he could have been classified as a defender in FPL this year, and that's down to him sometimes being utilised at left wing back last season. With already so much amazing value with 4.5 million defenders in FPL this season though, it may actually be more beneficial to us that Colback has been listed as a midfielder in the end anyway, because there's not many 4.5 million mids that can provide us with decent cover like Colback may be able to. For a budget 4.5 million midfielder, of course we can never expect too much more than appearance points in FPL realistically. But it is worth noting that this shift to left wing back last season did give Colback a bit more licence to get forward, and he ended the campaign with 3 goals and an assist. Not too shabby. He did pick up 10 bookings however, so a bit of a yellow card magnet. But still, even 1 point from your 4.5 backup midfielder is better than 0, right? One to keep an eye on, and as things stand, looking likely to be a starter. The next budget option to speak about is United's Andreas Pereira. And for him to become a viable 4.5 FPL option in midfield, we will need him to complete a transfer away first. As I'm recording this video, Pereira looks to be edging very close to a move to Fulham. And if that transfer does go through, we could have a very nifty 4.5 million option on our hands here, who for this budget price does actually offer a little bit of goal threat too. Pereira spent the last season on loan at Brazilian club Flamengo, and although I can't sit here and tell you that I watched him and the Brazilian league last season, it is at least promising to know that he made 31 league appearances, so at the very least we know that he's match fit. During his time at Flamengo, it's also worth knowing that he managed 7 goals and 2 assists in the league. And granted, even though the Premier League is certainly a very much different standard, it's still good to see that he does know where the goal is and play what looks to be a fairly attacking role. Not bad for what is a 4.5 million midfielder in FPL. Should this move to Fulham go through, an attacking Fulham side that scored a ridiculous 106 league goals last season, who knows, he could become a very handy budget option. And importantly, there's certainly a hole to fill in that Fulham side now, with one of their most important attacking players from last season, Carvalho, having left the club. The next 4.5 million midfielder that I think is definitely worth keeping an eye out for during pre-season is Brentford's Josh De Silva. During the 2021 season in the Championship, Brentford's eventual promotion clinching campaign, sadly De Silva picked up a very serious hip injury in February, and that kept him out for an entire year. Such a shame for the young and promising talent. To make things worse for the now 23-year-old, once he did return after 1 year out, he then got himself sent off in only his 2nd start in the Premier League since returning. And it was then in that very same game that Christian Eriksen was given his high-profile debut for Brentford. So from there, it was always going to be a very big ask for De Silva to get back into the team. He sadly then suffered a further injury while suspended, and in the end was limited to just a few substitute appearances. Clearly, it's been a tough old time for De Silva, but he is back to fitness now and surely ready and raring to go if given the chance. As you can see from his Championship stats prior to that injury, he had already made 30 appearances that season, featuring in almost every game, and had already racked up 5 goals and 4 assists. It's also worth noting that in the season prior, in the 1920 season, he played 42 games and bagged 10 goals, a superb return for the then 21-year-old. At still a fairly young age, he's already made nearly 100 league appearances for Brentford, and before the injury was clearly regarded as an important player and a huge talent. So, with Christian Eriksen now gone, and evidently not re-signing for the Bees, could this finally be Josh Da Silva's chance to reclaim that first team spot? He's an attacking player, he wears the number 10, and he'll clearly have a huge point to prove. So do keep an eye out for Josh Da Silva during pre-season. If Brentford don't sign an attacking midfielder in the next few weeks, he could be a very exciting 4.5 million option, especially considering Brentford's kind opening fixtures. So what about 4.5 million forwards in FPL this year? Well, this one's a difficult one, with currently only 10 of them registered in the FPL game, so not many to choose from. One player that I think is definitely worth watching out for though, is Villa's exciting talent Cameron Archer. In the first half of last season, the promising young forward was limited only to cup fixtures and bagged an impressive 10 goals in just 6 cup games. In order to then get more experience under his belt, he was then loaned to Preston North End in the Championship during the second half of last season, and in general made a very good account of himself there, scoring on his debut and becoming a bit of a lone star. He made 20 appearances for Preston, bagging 7 goals and an assist, and may now have a chance during pre-season to impress Gerrard further. Of course, hopes of Archer being a viable 4.5 million forward in FPL will very much depend on whether he is kept at the club this season or not, as there's a chance that Gerrard may see it better to give him another season on loan in the Championship. So let's see. As I'm producing this video though, he's already scored for Villa in a pre-season friendly, and if he keeps that up, he may get a chance to break into the first team this season. Will Cameron Archer be a starter come the Game Week 1 deadline? Well, obviously that's looking very unlikely, as is the case for any of the 4.5 million forwards. But he does look to be one that may have a chance at some decent minutes, or at the very least a few sub-appearances. So that's 4.5 million options in midfield and attack that I think are worth keeping tabs on during pre-season, and could be worthy of consideration as your bench-filling options. As things stand, Colback looks to be the less exciting but most secure of guaranteed minutes, whilst Pereira and Da Silva certainly look to be the more attacking and exciting midfield options. Cameron Archer, the forward, is probably the least likely for minutes here, but one to keep tabs on over the next few weeks. At this very early stage, there are of course a few others to perhaps watch out for too, and I will give quick mentions to Lavia at Southampton, Leeds' Sam Greenwood and Man City's Liam Delap, a midfielder and 2 forwards. Lavia is an 18-year-old youngster who Southampton have just signed from Man City, and he's a defensive midfielder who may challenge for minutes this season. Sam Greenwood is a highly rated young forward at Leeds, but to begin things will likely be behind Gelhardt and Bamford in the pecking order. As for Man City's Liam Delap, well that depends on his transfer activity. Apparently there is strong interest here from Southampton, and considering how important Armand Broja became for the Saints last year, perhaps Delap could replicate that should he make the move. There's still a few weeks to go until the Game Week 1 deadline, so perhaps a few more 4.5 million options will emerge until then. If they do, I'll leave any updates in a pinned comment below this video, just in case you're watching this video much closer to the Game Week 1 deadline. So lots of options discussed there to put on your watch list during pre-season. As always, if you enjoyed the video and found it useful, the best thing you can do to support my channel is simply leave a like, get subscribed, and also hit the notification bell. That way you'll always be notified when a new video goes live. Also, if you didn't catch the £4 million Defender edition of this series, you'll be able to see it on the screen now, so you can click the thumbnail and watch it if you like. I'll be back in a few days for the next FPL video, so until then, FPL responsibly and I'll catch you all very soon.